The scent of cinnamon rolls filled the air as I pulled a fresh tray from the oven, the warm sugar glaze glistening under the bakery lights. It had taken me nearly 7 years to build this place, the Golden Crust, from a tiny home kitchen into the town's most beloved bakery. People didn't just come here for pastries, they came for warmth, for celebration, for comfort. And I had given them all of it, every single day, with burnt fingertips and early mornings and no days off. Which is why, when my husband dropped that bombshell, I almost dropped the tray. "I was thinking," Elijah said, his tie still loose from work, leaning casually against the prep counter. "It'd be a nice gesture if we gave the bakery to Noah as a wedding gift. You know, help him start his new life." I blinked. "You want me to give him the bakery?" He smiled like it was the most logical thing in the world. "It's tradition. Everyone in the family contributes. Your cousin gave her husband a car. Your sister-in-law got a full down payment on a house. Noah's always dreamed of running a place like this." "Noah can't even toast a bagel," I said, my voice low and sharp. "He doesn't know the first thing about baking. And this isn't some spare car or loan. This is my life's work, Elijah." He raised his hands as if to calm me. "He just needs a head start. We'll help him figure it out." I didn't even answer. I picked up a bowl and started whisking as if I could beat the anger out with every rotation. The bell above the door jingled and my best friend, Tessa, walked in, heels tapping against the tile. She took one look at my face and raised an eyebrow. "Who do I need to punch?" "Elijah thinks I should give Noah my bakery," I said, my tone flat as I shoved dough onto a tray. Tessa stared at Elijah like he had grown a second head. "You're kidding, right?" "It's family tradition," he repeated, checking his watch. "Look, I've got to head to the office, but just think about it. Family first, right?" He kissed my cheek, and I didn't even pretend to respond. The door closed behind him, and I hurled the metal mixing bowl into the sink with a loud clang. "You have got to be kidding me," Tessa said, hopping up onto the counter. "Tell me you didn't say yes." "I didn't say anything," I muttered. What was I supposed to do? He's been going on about this wedding for months. "You could have said no." "Hell no. Hell no," with a flaming spatula. I started boxing up a customer's order just to keep my hands busy. This place, it's not just a business. I built it from scratch. Every corner, every recipe. I worked 2 jobs just to afford the first oven. But Elijah? He thinks it's just disposable. Tessa reached over and snatched a cookie from the display case. "Then don't let him take it." "Seriously, Sam. You've sacrificed too much to hand it over to someone who wouldn't know a scone from a stone." I paused, watching the sugar crystals sparkle on the cookie she bit into. Then a thought hit me. "Maybe I will give it to him," I said slowly, setting the box down. Tessa blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "On my terms," I said, pulling out my phone. "Let's see if Noah can survive a single day in this kitchen. He wants to play boss? Fine. But he's going to learn exactly what it means to run the Golden Crust." Tessa leaned forward with a wicked grin. "Oh, I love where this is going." I sat across from Madison in her sunlit home office, a legal pad in front of me, and a fire building quietly in my chest. Madison wasn't just my mentor. She was the woman who taught me that a whisk could change your life and that contracts were just as powerful as any recipe. "You're seriously considering transferring the bakery?" she asked, setting her coffee down with a sharp clink. "I'm not giving it away," I said, sliding my draft across the table. "I'm testing them. If Noah wants the Golden Crust, he's going to have to prove he deserves it." Madison scanned the document, her expression slowly shifting from skepticism to reluctant admiration. "Well, you've been paying attention. Escape clause. Performance conditions. Quality standards clause. Honestly, this is more ironclad than most prenups." "I learned from the best," I said with a small smile. "I even scheduled a consultation with him and his fiancée to talk wedding cake designs. They think I'm just being helpful. But this is his first test." Madison leaned back, her eyes glinting. "All right. Let's see what your charming brother-in-law is really made of." When they arrived that afternoon, Noah strolled into Madison's office like he owned the place. His fiancée, Brooke, followed behind with a polite smile and eyes that flickered with quiet nerves. Samara. So glad we could meet, Noah said. Adjusting his jacket like this was a board meeting instead of a bakery consultation. Brooke's really excited about the cake, and I've been dreaming about running the golden crust since Elijah told me. I gestured for them to sit. Since you're so excited, I thought it'd be good to hear your vision. What do you imagine for the bakery? Oh, easy, Noah said, waving a hand. First off, we modernize. Ditch the scratch baking, too slow. Use pre-made bases and just frost them up. No one can taste the difference anyway. Brooke shifted uncomfortably. Madison started taking notes. Also, he continued, cut staff. You've got way too many people doing stuff machines can do. That alone will double the profit margin. And prices? Raise location like that should charge premium rates. I watched him with a blank expression, even as every word made me want to throw flour in his face. Interesting approach, I said. Well, if you're serious, I've drafted the transfer contract. A few conditions, of course. Noah's smile faltered. Conditions? Just a few basics, I said, sliding the contract across the table. 3-month training period. Pass a culinary certification. Maintain all current staff and recipe integrity for at least 1 year. You know, standard stuff for someone who wants to run a real bakery. This is ridiculous, Noah barked, standing up so fast his chair screeched. I don't need training. I don't need a piece of paper to tell me how to run a business. You need something, Madison said coolly, because you clearly don't have experience. Brooke's gaze darted between us, her face pale. Noah, maybe it wouldn't hurt to learn some of the basics. He scoffed. You're taking her side? I'm just saying, she said softly. You made it sound different. Like this would be collaborative. He grabbed his coat. We'll talk to Elijah. This is a joke. They stormed out. Madison raised her eyebrow. Well, that went well. I didn't respond. I was too busy watching Brooke. She hadn't said much, but the crack had started. And cracks, I knew, always widened with time. The cafe was nearly empty when Brooke walked in, her shoulders hunched beneath her designer coat, clutching a manila folder like it was shielding her from the world. I had chosen a quiet corner booth away from the windows, and Serena sat beside me, already sensing this was going to be more than just whetting nerves. Brooke slid into the seat across from us and didn't waste a second. I wasn't snooping, she said quickly. I was looking for stamps in Noah's office drawer, and I found these. She pushed the folder toward us with trembling fingers. I opened it and immediately felt my stomach drop. Credit card statements, loan applications, red ink everywhere. Unpaid balances. Rejected loans. Collection agency letters. It wasn't just debt, it was desperation. Gambling, Brooke whispered, her voice brittle. Mostly online. I found emails with betting receipts, too. He owes over $180,000. And he's been lying to everyone. He told my parents he's doing great with his investments. Serena let out a low whistle. So that's why he wants the bakery. Not for the family legacy. For the cash flow. I nodded slowly. And if he gets control, he'll gut it. Sell the equipment, switch to cheap supplies, raise prices, ruin everything. Brooke buried her face in her hands. I thought I was marrying someone ambitious. I didn't realize I was engaged to a sinking ship. I reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. You're not the first woman to be sold a dream that turned out to be a nightmare. But now you know. So, what do you want to do? She looked up, her eyes glassy but determined. I want to see it for myself. What he does when he thinks no one's watching. I glanced at Serena, who nodded. We can make that happen. His first training session is tomorrow. He thinks he's showing up to learn management. But we've got a different lesson planned. Brooke sat back, her expression sharpening. He won't suspect anything? Nope, I said, sipping my coffee. He still thinks I'm the generous sister-in-law who's finally come around. But tomorrow, he's going to step into my world. And if he fumbles, we'll be right there to catch every second of it. Serena smirked. We'll have Maria run the kitchen like she usually does. No special treatment. No shortcuts. And I'll make sure the cameras are working. You'd be amazed how honest people get when they think they're in charge. Brooke nodded slowly, the weight of what she had discovered still sitting heavy on her shoulders. I don't know how I missed it all. I wanted to believe in him. I understood that more than I cared to admit. I had once believed Elijah's calm reassurances too. But trust without proof was just hope in disguise. As Brooke left the cafe, her posture a little straighter than before, I felt the first breath of real momentum. The cracks were no longer just forming, they were widening. And tomorrow, Noah would walk straight into them. He showed up in a pressed navy suit like he was attending a board meeting, not stepping into a bakery kitchen. Noah walked through the front doors of the Golden Crust with the confidence of someone who thought he already owned the place. His tie was perfectly knotted, hair slicked back, and not a speck of flour in sight. Maria, my head baker, stood at the prep table wearing her usual apron and dusting a tray of rolls with sesame seeds. She held out a clean apron and hairnet. First step, suit off, apron on. Noah looked at the apron like it was an insult. I'm not here to bake. I'm here to learn how to manage. Big difference. Management starts with understanding the product, I said, stepping into the kitchen with Maggie beside me. She'd insisted on coming. After the cafe meeting, she wanted to see everything firsthand.
He scoffed.
I know plenty. Look, these processes, rolling, folding, hand kneading, they're outdated. You're wasting time and money. We could double output using frozen dough and machine mixers. Maria's jaw clenched. That outdated process is why people come here. Because they taste the difference. He waved her off like she was a waitress at a bad restaurant. Sentiment doesn't pay rent. We need to raise prices, cut staff, and bring in cheap suppliers. This kitchen could be running on half the overhead if we just dropped all this homemade nonsense. Maggie's eyes widened, and I saw her take an involuntary step back. Maria caught my eye and gave a subtle nod before tapping the record button on the phone tucked into her apron pocket. Why don't you walk us through your vision? I said smoothly. Just so we're all on the same page. Noah's face lit up. He thought he had an audience. Well, first thing, half the staff has to go. Too many hands in the kitchen. Streamline it. Then switch to pre-made pastry shells and mass-produced frosting. Raise prices by at least 40%. People will still come.
You've got brand loyalty. Squeeze it.
I stayed quiet, letting him talk. Letting him dig. Then we lease out the extra space in the back. Maybe to a cafe chain or a smoothie place. The bakery doesn't need all that room. And once we cut all the waste, we can sell the high-end equipment. You'd be shocked what some of that stuff's worth used. Maria raised an eyebrow, pretending to take mental notes, her phone still recording. Maggie, on the other hand, looked like she had been physically slapped. You'd really cut everyone out? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. All the staff who helped build this place? Noah laughed. It's just business, babe. You've got to think like an investor, not a charity worker. Maggie said nothing, but I saw the color drain from her face. Great, I said, my voice even. Would you mind writing all that down for the updated transfer contract?
He paused.
Why bother? Once the paperwork's signed, I can do what I want, right? I smiled. Oh, there are clauses. Very specific ones. Noah rolled his eyes. Whatever. It's all mine soon enough. I glanced at Maria. Her phone was still rolling. Every word safely captured. And just like that, the mask was off. The real Noah had arrived, and he had no idea we had it all on tape. It was just after midnight when my phone buzzed beside the bed, the soft blue glow casting shadows across the ceiling. I blinked, confused, then sat up fast. Unauthorized login attempt, the Golden Crust business account. My heart pounded. I grabbed my laptop and opened the bakery's security camera feed. The grainy black and white footage showed a figure fumbling with the back door lock, Noah. He had used a key. Elijah's spare, no doubt. He stepped inside like he belonged there, went straight for my office, and turned on my computer. I hit record on my phone and pulled a sweater over my pajamas. A few texts later, I had Serena and Maggie on standby. Then I grabbed my keys and headed out. By the time I got to the bakery, the place was dark except for the sliver of light spilling from under the office door. I crept down the hallway, phone still recording, holding it close. Inside, Noah was hunched over my desk, muttering, "Come on, where is it? Just need the damn passwords." I flipped on the hallway light. "Looking for something?" He jolted, knocking over a desk lamp. "Samara. I was just checking on some numbers for the transition," Elijah said. "At midnight? During your bachelor party?" I stepped into the room, still filming. He smoothed his shirt and tried to stand tall. "It's not what it looks like." "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like." He hesitated, then his voice shifted, softer, more desperate. "Okay, fine. I needed access."
Just for a little while.
"A few days. I'm behind, okay? But once the business is mine, I can fix it." "How much do you owe, Noah?" I asked quietly. He swallowed. 50 grand. Maybe closer to 90. But I have a plan. "You told Maggie it was under control." Just then, Maggie's voice came from behind me. "Try 185,000. Plus interest." Noah froze. She stepped forward, her arms wrapped around herself. "I found everything. The credit cards, the gambling site accounts, the loan sharks. I believed you, Noah." "Maggie." "No," she said firmly. "You lied. Over and over. And now you're trying to steal from the only person who's ever treated me like family." His mask cracked again. "You don't understand. I was going to fix it. This bakery, it was our ticket out. I needed it." Serena's voice rang out behind Maggie. "You mean you needed Samara's money?" She stepped into the room, holding her phone. "Already called the police. They're on their way." "You can't do this." Noah's voice turned frantic. "This is a family issue. You're making it worse." "You made it worse," I said calmly, still recording. "The moment you tried to break in. The moment you used Elijah's key behind my back. The moment you turned desperation into betrayal." Blue and red lights flashed through the front windows. Noah backed up, looking for a way out, but the front door opened, and 2 officers stepped inside. "Noah Jacobs?" one asked. "We've had a report of unlawful entry and attempted financial theft." He raised his hands slightly. "It was a misunderstanding. My brother's wife." "Save it," the officer said, taking his arm and leading him out. I stood frozen in the hallway, my bakery suddenly feeling unfamiliar under the weight of everything that had just happened. Maggie wiped her cheeks. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea." I touched her shoulder gently. "You're not the one who should be sorry." Outside, the sirens faded as the police cruiser disappeared down the street. The Golden Crust stood silent once more, but this time, justice had finally found its way in. By the time the sun dipped behind the hills, Olivia and I were deep in her garden office, surrounded by legal documents, court orders, and half-drunk glasses of wine. The warmth of the evening did nothing to soften the weight of what we were preparing. The judge approved the restraining order, Olivia said, sliding the signed papers across the table. "Ivan can't come near the bakery, or you without facing serious jail time." I took a deep breath, running my fingers over the embossed seal. It felt heavier than paper. It felt like closure. "That makes it official," I said quietly. "Now I just need to make sure everyone else sees who he really is." As if summoned, my phone buzzed. "Elijah." Again. I sighed, answering reluctantly. "Hello." "Where are you?" he asked, breathless. "We need to talk." "About tomorrow." "I'm at Olivia's. Finishing paperwork." There was a long pause. "Ivan's a wreck. He says he's sorry. He's willing to go to rehab, pay back everything, drop the business idea completely. Just please drop the charges. Don't ruin him." "Ruin him," I repeated, the words slicing through me like ice. "He broke into my business, tried to steal my accounts, lied to your whole family, and you want me to make it go away?" "He's my brother, Samara." "And I'm your wife," I snapped. "At least I thought I was." "Tell me, Elijah, did you know about the debts? The loans? The threats?" Silence. "Elijah." "I did," he admitted quietly. But I thought he'd get it together. I thought helping him get the bakery would buy him some time. I never expected. You knew and said nothing, I whispered. You let him aim for the one thing I built with everything I had. I didn't want to lose both of you, he said. Please, just come to the wedding tomorrow. We'll fix this after. I'll be there, I said, staring out at the darkening sky. But not to celebrate. I ended the call and turned to Olivia. He knew. All of it. She didn't look surprised. Just disappointed. Then it's time we show everyone else. You ready for the last move? More than ready. We spent the next few hours organizing everything: security footage, contracts, financial statements. Serena dropped off the final USB drive. Maggie texted. Venue access secured. Everything's in place. By midnight, every piece of our plan was prepped. The flowers would be beautiful. The guests would be dressed to the nines. The cake would be front and center. But this wouldn't be a wedding. This would be the truth, served cold, with a generous side of justice. As I slipped into bed that night, the silence of the house was louder than ever. My wedding ring felt heavy, foreign. I took it off and placed it on the nightstand. Tomorrow, the world would see the full picture. Not the one they were sold. Not the fantasy Elijah and Ivan had so carefully spun. This time, I was the one writing the story. The church was buzzing with whispers before a single note of music had played. Guests shifted in pews, murmuring behind carefully raised programs, throwing glances at the elaborate floral displays and the towering wedding cake I had helped Maggie decorate just days ago. The article had dropped that morning, a full-page feature in the local paper detailing Ivan's attempted theft, the break-in, the mounting debts. No names were printed, but everyone knew. And still, the wedding hadn't been called off. They're still going through with it, Serena whispered beside me, adjusting her bridesmaid dress. Ivan convinced Maggie's parents it's all just family drama taken out of context. Of course he had. I smoothed the last cupcake on the dessert table and looked around the reception hall turned war zone. Where's Maggie? Locked in the bridal suite, Serena said. Says she's getting ready, but we both knew she was thinking.
Processing.
And then the front doors slammed open. Ivan stormed in, tuxedo rumpled, eyes wild. Where is she? A few gasps echoed across the room. Someone tried to joke. Not supposed to see the bride before the ceremony. Not Maggie, Ivan snapped. His eyes locked on me.
You.
We need to talk, now. Before I could answer, another voice rang out. That won't be necessary. Olivia walked in, heels sharp on marble, holding a manila envelope in one hand and flanked by two uniformed officers. Ivan Jacobs, she said clearly, lifting the envelope. You're in violation of a court-issued restraining order. You were legally barred from contacting or approaching Samara within 100 feet. You just broke that. Ivan turned red, then pale, then angry. You can't do this. This is my wedding day. Correction, came another voice. Heads turned as Maggie stepped out from the bridal suite, dressed in her wedding gown, but calm, composed, and no longer his. You had your chance, Ivan, she said softly. But I'm not walking into a life built on lies. I'm not marrying you. What is this? He demanded, his voice cracking. You're all turning against me? Serena stepped forward, holding a remote. Actually, we just think everyone deserves to know the truth. She pressed play. The projector screen lit up behind the altar. First, the footage of Ivan breaking into the bakery. Then, his recorded rant in the kitchen, slashing staff, cheap ingredients, selling equipment, all laid bare for the entire room to witness. The gasps turned into murmurs. Then outrage. Maggie's parents stood frozen in their seats. Elijah stood off to the side, stunned silent. Ivan Jacobs, one of the officers said, stepping forward. You're under arrest for violating a restraining order and attempted financial fraud. You have the right to remain silent. No, wait. Ivan backed up, but there was nowhere to go. The entire room was watching as the cuffs clicked around his wrists. You ruined everything, he hissed as they led him away. No, I said, my voice calm, steady, unshaken. You did that all by yourself. As the doors closed behind him, the silence was deafening. And then Maggie stepped forward, unpinning her veil. "Well," she said, tears in her eyes but a quiet smile on her face, "there may not be a wedding, but there's still cake." The guests burst into applause. And just like that, the truth replaced the lie. Not the celebration we expected, but maybe the one we all needed. As the guests began to settle again, the tension still crackling in the air, Calvin approached me at the dessert table, his face pale, hands shaking. He looked nothing like the confident man I once married. "Samara," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Please, we need to talk. I didn't know it would go this far. I just wanted to help my brother. I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared at him, then calmly reached into my bag and pulled out a second USB. Serena handed me the mic without a word. "Before we move on, there's one more truth to share," I said, turning toward the screen again. The room went silent as a new video played, security footage from our backyard, audio clear. It showed Calvin and Ivan weeks ago, whispering over beers, planning how to pressure me into handing over the bakery. Calvin's words echoed through the church. "She'll give in eventually. She always does." When the footage ended, no one spoke. I turned to Calvin, pulling out an envelope and placing it gently on the table between us. "These are divorce papers," I said, my voice steady. "Signed and ready. I was waiting to see if you'd finally choose me. But you never did." Calvin looked like the ground had dropped beneath him. "You don't mean this. Not like this. Not here." "Exactly here," I said, eyes locked with his. "Where everyone you lied to can see the truth for themselves." He reached for the envelope, but I stepped back. There were no more words left to say. The crowd watched in stunned silence as Calvin stood alone, exposed, his betrayal unraveling under the weight of his own choices. The morning sun streamed through the front windows of the Golden Crust as I unlocked the door, the scent of cinnamon and fresh vanilla already filling the air. Today felt different, lighter, sharper, like something had shifted and finally settled into place. Maggie walked in moments later, already wearing her new apron. "Ready for day one as partner?" I asked, handing her the spare set of keys I had made. "Partner," she repeated, eyes wide. "I still can't believe it." "Believe it," I said with a smile. "You earned this, not just with your recipes, but with your courage." The bell above the door jingled again as Serena and Olivia arrived, carrying orange juice, a bottle of champagne, and a stack of papers. "Toast first," Serena said, pouring mimosas. "Then paperwork." Olivia set the documents on the counter. The judge signed off on everything. The Golden Crust is now protected under a corporate trust. No one can touch it without approval from your board. "Our board," I corrected. "You, Serena, Maggie. Women who understand what it means to build something and fight for it." The clink of glasses echoed through the bakery, laughter soft and real. Later that morning, Maria burst in with the first round of orders and the day's newspaper. The headline read, "From betrayal to brilliance. Local bakery owner reclaims her legacy." "They're giving you the city's Small Business Legacy Award next month," she added. "And they want us to cater the entire event." I stared at the article, heart full. Not long ago, I was fighting to protect this place. Now, we were being honored for it. As I placed the article on the bulletin board, the bell rang one last time. Calvin stood there, holding a small stack of mail. "I thought you'd want these," he said quietly. "Thanks," I replied, taking them without looking at him. He lingered, but I was already walking back toward the counter. I flipped the sign on the door to open and gently shut it behind him. Some doors, once closed, are never meant to be opened again. The light filtered in golden through the front windows, casting a warm glow across the freshly polished counters and glass display cases filled with pastries we'd prepared that morning. The scent of vanilla, toasted almonds, and fresh bread wrapped around us like a promise. Olivia poured the mimosas while Serena passed out the glasses. "To new beginnings," Olivia said, raising hers. "To chosen family," Serena added, winking at Maggie. Maggie beamed, a little flower still dusted on her cheek. "And to women who don't just survive betrayal, they build something better because of it. We clinked glasses, the soft sound almost lost beneath the growing buzz outside. A line had already formed, our regulars, new faces, reporters. Word of the Golden Crust's rebirth had spread fast, and people wanted to be part of it. Before we opened the doors, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small box. "Maggie," I said, "this is for you." She opened it slowly, her breath catching as she revealed a delicate gold necklace, a tiny whisk charm glinting in the morning sun. She turned it over, reading the engraving aloud, her voice catching. Sometimes the sweetest success is saying no to the wrong thing and yes to the right ones. Tears welled in her eyes as she looked up at me. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to," I said, pulling her into a hug. "You already said it the moment you chose yourself." The bell above the door chimed as Maria unlocked it, letting in the cool morning breeze. Customers were pressing their faces to the glass, smiling, waving. The energy felt like a celebration. I stepped to the door and looked around at the women beside me, the women who stood by me when everything nearly crumbled. They weren't just friends anymore. They were family, not the kind bound by blood or obligation. The kind you fight beside. The kind you trust with your dream. I flipped the sign to open. And just like that, a new chapter began, one where the past no longer held power and everything ahead smelled like fresh-baked strength.